kind of hide the sword in my robes and kind of nonchalantly start walking away towards the north gate.
You'd steal from a church.
Steal? That's a bit harsh, isn't it? I said borrow, didn't I? I was most careful about saying
Lest
borrow.
the wages of sin see your soul dragged down by Gormoth to the very hells themselves. Change your ways, Londoners, for only then will you be saved from the reckoning that is to come.
Do me a favour. I'm going to turn my attention then to this guy who's staggering to his feet and set about him with the crowbar.
You are taken by surprise, Friar Dunstan, when the water near you erupts and what appears to be a large, scaly, reptilian creature bursts out of the water as a crocodile-like creature. It literally launches itself out of the water towards you, its large toothed mouth open wide.
Yeah, I'll just make the most of it. It's like a bit like being on holiday sort of thing. I'll make the most of it. Milk it a bit, milk it.
This is an abomination and it must be killed.
I quite agree, but first of all, we've got to find out where it came from. I mean, if someone's doing this to people, they've got to be stopped.
I wish to speak to it.
And indeed, as you say that, from the direction of the creature, where it's sort of like curled up against the wall, still with one arm in the manacle, you hear this voice go, "Richard." Our heroes are in the Temple of the Green Man in Bishopsgate. They've been led to the cellar by the head priest, Bernard Dunham, who has revealed this ragged creature that they have chained up and they have subdued with various herbs and unguents. The creature was attempting to prey on their parishioners. However, just as they're pondering what to do with this creature and whether to put it out of its misery, the creature, in a groaning voice, stirs slightly and says, "Richard."
Well, Richard, his jaw almost hits the floor. He takes a couple of hesitant steps forward to get a better, closer look. Rupert, is that you? What's going on?
The creature looks at you, and you think for a few moments on its twisted face. It looks as though its face was made out of wax and has been held to near a heat source, and it's sort of melted and run and distorted into a horrible caricature of a human face. It looks at you with one good eye, the other hidden beneath folds of flesh, and for a few moments, as its eye sort of locks on you, you think you see something of a spark of the sort of fairly handsome man that you once knew in Rupert Uffington. He tries to say something, but it just comes out as a rasping gurgle. The lieutenant has the priest bring some water to the ruined creature that was once his stepbrother, and then, in an almost pleading tone, asks him, "Who did this to you?" I don't know. I was coming back from a trade mission for the family to the east, and when I arrived to give my briefing, they set upon me in the darkness. I never saw their faces.
Can you tell us anything of where you were kept? What they did?
They kept me underground. They cut me and poked me and burned me. They said many strange things that I did not understand.
Okay. Can we release him? I'll say to the father. Bernard, do you have the keys?
He nods, but he doesn't look very happy about it. He says, well, I normally I would quite happily release him, but he seems to be, at least from what I can see, he appears to be afflicted with bouts of madness or mania. We had to restrain him like this, or we fear he would have harmed himself and others. After all, he was set on attacking some of our parishioners when we first discovered him. It took a number of us to subdue him. I'd be loath to let him go, especially with the. After all, it's Holy Day. The church is starting to fill up.
Good point. We must wait.
The lieutenant asks the priest to loosen the chains so that he can make his step-brother more comfortable, and the priest agrees despite his misgivings due to the church filling up, since it is Sunday, or Holy Day as it's known, and parishioners are starting to gather in the church above. However, he eventually agrees and loosens the chain, but a bout of mania grips the poor bedraggled creature, and it lashes out, seemingly trying to sink its fangs into the priest, before eventually collapsing against the wall as the mania passes, ragged breaths escaping from under its ruined features. The lieutenant says that he needs to consider what they're going to do with him, but as they're about to leave, the poor, misshapen creature speaks again.
Richard, don't leave me like this. I don't want to be like this.
About face, turn towards him. This is one of the things I was about to discuss with my colleagues, but...
You turn towards him, you can see like a thin trickle of drool running out the corner of his twisted mouth, again sort of dribbling onto the fur that sprouts at random from his chest. And for just a moment in his one good eye as it looks at you, see a sort of a look of pleading. It's not a look you're accustomed to seeing in Rupert's eyes. He was once a beautiful, a proud man, but now you see this almost an appeal shining in his eye as he looks towards you.
Lieutenant, I'll take the lieutenant by the shoulder, and
yes,
I'll say you go upstairs with the other guys.
No, I must be the one to do this. Reaches to his side and draws his dagger.
Again, you see Rupert's face twist into what might be a smile as your dagger shines briefly in the light that's falling down the stairs into this otherwise dimly lit cellar.
Lean forward. Farewell, brother.
You stab into his stomach. His body shudders and his weight sort of falls forward. His arm's still held behind him, but he sort of leans down onto you. And as you hear the sort of heavenly voices of the singing from Bishopsgate above, you feel like the last sort of breath begin to leave your half-brother's twisted body. He leans in close, his ruined face to your ear as his last exhalation draws closer, and in a ragged voice you hear him say,
Only Father knew I was coming back.
Slowly release him. So he's just hanging there, supported by his one arm. Hopefully you can release him now, Father.
Father Dinham puts a comforting hand on your shoulder, and in a fairly solemn voice, quite unlike his normal bombastic tones, he says, yes, of course. And he, as the bells begin to chime above in Bishopsgate, he takes this ring of keys from around his waist, unlocks the chain that's holding Rupert's arm up and sort of supports him with his hands as he does so, and gently, almost lovingly, lowers the twisted body of Rupert to the floor.
I have some praying to do.
Of course, you're aware of where my chambers are. They're at your disposal for as long as you need them.
Okay, so I'll stride out, not looking at anyone else as he wipes his blade of the blood of his half-brother and leaves and heads off upstairs.
Lieutenant Uffington leaves whilst Father Dinham draws a sheet over the body of the now deceased Rupert Uffington. Meanwhile, Friar Dunstan says the last rites, and as he's finishing, Father Dinham steps towards him and tells him that he didn't wish to distress the lieutenant further given everything that had occurred, but when they subdued the poor unfortunate, there was something else that they discovered, and he begins rummaging around in his cassock. He takes out what appears to be a small crumpled piece of parchment, and he says, when we were forced to subdue this poor creature, we found one thing only on his person, that this small piece of parchment. He was clutching it tightly as though it was precious to him. It has a crude drawing on it. I don't claim to understand it, but if it might help you or your friend, please. And he holds it out towards you.
And I'll take it off him and examine it and thank him for.
Okay, he passes you over this parchment, and I've just shared in roll 20 the crude drawing that is on the parchment.
Okay. Would I have seen anything resembling that before? Is that something I might recognise?
Roll me a d6. It doesn't look familiar to you at all, although it's a little difficult to tell because it's obviously been very badly drawn. And I mean, you saw the sort of mangled state of the one arm that Rupert had remaining, so it's not surprising he's not exactly like Leonardo da Vinci. Father Dinham agrees that he will prepare a burial place for the deceased, but refuses an offer of money from Friar Dunstan, saying that it is not necessary. Meanwhile, Jackdaw is helping to cover the body with a sheet, and whilst doing so, he surreptitiously pats down the corpse to see if there is anything worth taking. You sort of under the auspices of straightening out the
it's like, oh,
the sheet and whatever.
Oh, that's wrinkled right there. Let me get that. Oh, what's in the pocket here?
Yeah, you search through the rags that the poor creature is wearing. It doesn't seem to have any possessions on it at all.
Yep. Also, specifically, not really Jackdaw isn't looking for I'm gonna steal all the money, because that's not a thing for him. But he's specifically looking for some sort of tokens, because his thing he's come to realize now is the feathers, right? So he's looking for something that's out of place.
Okay, as you're sort of looking over again, like I say, under the auspices of straightening the cloth.
Yep.
As you're looking over, you don't see, but as you're sort of running your hand under the back of the creature, you can feel a by now familiar patchwork of scars and brands on the back of the creature. Obviously, you can't really sort of flip him over and have a look at it, but you can feel with your hands as you sort of run it under the back of this creature that someone has branded, cut, and scarred this crisscross network of mutilation into the back of this poor soul.
Yeah, I'll finish my straightening of the sheet, and I will make myself invisible. I will wait for the proceedings to conclude.
Whilst the Jackdaw is watching the proceedings unfold, Big Mick is aghast at the suffering that's been inflicted on this person, and inwardly thinks that the people who did this need to be brought to justice. He's jolted out of this reverie when Father Dinner lays a comforting hand on his shoulder. Smiling sadly, Big Mick turns to speak to the priest.
Thank you, Father, for your kindness, and once again, thank you for healing me up and seeing to me in my time of need, man. I definitely owe you one there.
You do not owe me anything. It is my belief that whatever physical stains, whatever illnesses we may carry now, all are washed away when we enter into the gardens of paradise after this life is done. When we lay down the heavy burdens of this life and move to our glorious reward. If there is any justice in the world, that is where this poor soul is now. He's free of what was done to him and the cares of this world. One day I hope that we should all be so lucky.
Yeah, definitely. But in the meantime, when I get a chance, I'll have a word with my old man and see if he can get some choice cuts of meat sent over FOC. No charge, of course.
He sort of smiles a bit, but he shakes his head. He says, "It is the belief of the followers of the Grey Man. We do not eat the flesh of other creatures." But I appreciate your offer. No offense taken, my son. The offer was sincere and came from a place of kindness, and that means more than the actual receipt of the gift, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I'm none too well educated, Father, so I don't know about this stuff, but perhaps I'll have a word with the fruit and veg man, see if he can sort you something out.
He smiles, the joke sort of cutting through the sadness of this moment, and he lets out a deep rumbling laugh, and he claps you on the shoulder, and he says, but come, let us away from this sad scene. I will have some of my fellow priests attend to this poor unfortunate. There is a small grove of trees behind the temple. I will have him laid to rest there, amidst the shadows and the shade of the trees. Friar Dunstan catches up with Richard. The lieutenant is sitting in the priest's quarters, a notable lack of expression on his face, stunned by the recent events that have occurred.
And the friar will just look a kind of sad look, and just say, "These are difficult times, but your friends are with you, and whatever you decide to do, we will follow your lead." And then I will leave the lieutenant to his pacing and kind of start wrapping up my pack and looking after my stuff.
The friar heads outside, where Alan Lathan, the sewer shifter that they rescued, is stood looking awkward, smoking on a small pipe.
How are you feeling, young man, after your ordeal?
He blows out a cloud of smoke and says, "Well, I don't know what to make of it, to be honest. I mean, I've only been a sewer shifter for a few months, not like some of the old families who've been doing it for years, and I can't say I can't say I really want to go back down there, to be honest, but I don't really know what to do with myself. I mean, after all, it wasn't a well-paid job, but well, it was what I had. But if there's things like that creature that we saw in the sewers, well, I don't see how people can go back down there. I mean, you can see, although he's obviously trying to hold it together, his hands are shaking a little bit as he thinks about the gator in the sewers. He's trying to relight his pipe.
So I'll kind of put a comforting hand on his shoulder and just say, I understand that these things are difficult to see, and every man has to make a choice for themselves about whether they are kind of when they face these difficult times, will they stand and fight against all that is wrong in this world, or will they kind of run and hide? And that choice is in front of you as we speak. And should you choose to fight, then there are many more of us here who will fight with you against this evil and the other evils that kind of beset this city. And if you choose to run, well, none can judge you for that, for the evil that faces us is...
He looks up sort of like a bit of a flash of, not anger, but sort of indignation in his eyes as you say, if you choose to run. And he says, where would I run to? London is my home. The people in the city, they're my people. They're my friends, my family. But I'm just a simple man. Well, what can one man do against the things that we saw in the sewer? And he obviously lowers his voice, presumably so that the lieutenant can't hear him in the chamber next door. He says, if such a thing as that can happen to the noblest of us, what chance does a simple man like myself have?
And we're all simple men. Last week I was a simple friar. The lieutenant was a simple soldier returned from war. Young Michael was a simple, and the less we say about Jackdaw, the better, I guess. But it's not what we can do individually; it's what we can do together. We know that whatever this evil is that is resulting in these bodies ending up in the river is in the sewer, and we know that if we can go back and if we can at least find out what it is or where it is, we have some hope of fighting it. We do know that there are other people out there who also fight against this evil, many of whom don't really know this evil exists, but they would fight against it if they do. The witch finders. If we could point them in the direction of such evil, then they would cleanse it. For cleansing is what they do.
Friar Dunstan suggests that Alan has skills that could be useful to the party, and that together they would be stronger fighting against the evils that beset the great city. I think it would have been different if there were more members of the Sewer Keepers Guild about, but I know their numbers have suffered greatly recently because of the plague. They've been hard hit by it. I sometimes think that's the only reason they accepted me as a member. Like I say, most of their old families go back years, but they've been hard hit, and there's just not enough of them to keep the sewers safe anymore. Like I say, I think that's the only reason they accepted me as a member. Friar Dunstan asks Alan whether it would be possible for him to set up a meeting between the party and the Sewers Guild, at which point Alan says that he could probably set out a meeting with them and the Guildmaster, Amicia Dunham. However, the guild is suffering at the moment because of the plague, and she might not be willing to lend them some men. He also reveals a rumour that apparently the Rivermen's Guild is imposing and encroaching on the traditional turf of the sewer keepers, perhaps hoping to take advantage of their reduced numbers. The friar tells Alan to meet them back here in an hour, and then gives him a gold piece, telling him to get a hot meal and a flagon of ale to fortify his resolve. Alan nods and says that he'll arrange the meeting with the Guildmaster if he can, and he'll meet them back here in an hour. As Alan leaves, opening the door, revealing the snow falling heavily and the wind whipping by outside, The friar goes through his pack, taking out the soft leather coat that he recovered from the Stygian library. Knowing that it radiates magic, he slips it on, finding it very comfortable, and decides to experiment with the jacket to see if he can divine what its magical abilities are. Okay, you try on the jacket. It's a loose-fitting, sort of fairly soft and supple leather jacket. So it comes down to about your knees, long-sleeved. What do you intend to do to try it out?
I guess I just wanted to see whether it had an impact on my mood, or I felt in any way different wearing it.
You don't feel any different at all. It doesn't. You obviously wear it for several minutes. It doesn't appear to affect your mood, at least as far as you're concerned. Obviously, you check your appearance. There's been no obvious change there.
Okay.
It does seem like it's very well made. It's extremely comfortable to wear. Like I say, the leather is very soft.
Okay.
But other than that, there's nothing overt that seems to have happened.
Okay. So then I think I'll just leave it on for the day and see. Just see if kind of wearing it kind of connects me to the magic in it somehow, and I can understand what it might do.
Mick gathers his companions together and asks them,
"So, fellas, what do you make of all this nonsense? This is going to take some unravelling by my reckoning."
I think unraveling was always going to be on the agenda, really. At least for me, because I don't really have anything else. Well, I guess I do now, since at the library, bit of a piece of news that was. But yeah, I suppose this is what I set out to do. I've just come to realize now. Are you, I guess, Lieutenant, your interest is kind of a given now at this point?
Yes, there's a connection. I don't know what to do, but I know what I'd like to do. That would be to kick down my father's door and beat a confession out of him. But I don't think that would work, really.
Well, should you choose such an option, we would stand with you. I do feel that evidence, if we could find some evidence connecting him to it in the sewers, that would potentially stand to us. We do know that the Witchfinders require very little evidence to burn people, and we may find enough, but it may also be quicker just to knock on the door and at least see what he has to say.
And if you don't find anything, I can always manufacture some. I have enough reference, and I roll back like a sleeve. I know what these things look like, so I can make a good job of making some stuff up.
If we just go knocking on the door, though, we'll never be seen or heard of again. We'll just get we'll get our throats slit and be thrown back in the river.
Yeah, you don't want to go there.
No, I don't.
However, we have a partly explored sewer system, which I would be keen to go back down and finish off.
Yeah, I concur. Like, eventually we're gonna run into, because apparently there's a lot of, folks like me, and then I don't really rightly know what happened with your your blood there, Lieutenant, at the cellar, but sure felt like maybe an advanced case of not being tossed into the river, but something else. So maybe this same people bagged him as bagged me, and eventually, because there's more of us here apparently, eventually we're gonna find some, like, something of value. We keep looking long enough around the water.
I agree.
But yeah, I'm with you, Lieutenant. The sewer seems like a place to look.
I do have a lead on a guide. Young Alan, who I spoke to while I was outside, believes that the Sewer Keepers Guild might be willing to give us a guide to go back into the sewers, which might make it a little bit easier, or give us some insight into the makeup of the sewer and the scale and the size and the creatures that live there.
Yeah, that sounds great. Also, do we have money to bribe peekers if we run into any? Or do we want to, I don't know what you guys would prefer, but...
What do you think these people that are carving up these unfortunate victims, what do you think they're up to? What is all this about, all this carving people up and mutilating people?
I'd like to know. Believe me, I'd like to know what happened.
It's a grim old business.
I suspect it's more nobles who are either bored or don't feel that they have sufficient power and they're dealing with a dark source to acquire more power.
Yes, bumping off the rivals.
Yes.
Well, if that library was correct, they certainly bumped off a rival to someone in a fairly high station. That might be a whole thing that I don't know how we're gonna even try to look at, but I suspect that if we ever do, it's gonna be by accident or by the access that the lieutenant here with his name is gonna have. But definitely, like, I'm feeling like personally maybe someone bumped me off and had some fun while doing it. For what reason though, I don't know really what I was doing, or I don't, because I don't really remember.
Surely
I don't know how I ended up this way. Oh, sorry. Yeah, you go. I'll turn into my beer.
Surely these netherworlds, these corrupt nobles, whatever you want to call them, crazy folk, they must have enemies. Maybe we can find out who their enemies are, and maybe their enemies are after.
Yeah, sounds like something we should do, though I think that's a little bit more down the road,
We need to be sure that it is Lord Uffington.
Yeah, and whoever he's, because it's like when there's one noble, there's probably going to be some more.
Because thieves, I think you're right. There'd be a whole bunch of them, like a nest of rats.
Yeah, snakes, really.
Snakes.
So I think we're of one mind. Then we would like to know what happened. We would probably like to figure out what's going on with the lieutenant's family. Probably find something to maybe then, as the friar says, leverage the witch finders and their excess time that they have to do whatever it is they think they're doing when they burn people. But
the discussion continues for some time, with the friar keen to point the witch hunters, including, as he describes him, the maniac Aldred Mallowburn, in the direction of the Uffington family and let them deal with it. They continue talking about the matter and how they could potentially resolve it, and After an hour or so has passed, there is a knock at the door. Jackdaw opens the door, sticks his head out, and sees Alan stood there outside, thumbing a bit of tobacco into his pipe and shaking the snow off his cloak and boots.
Ah. I presume you're the... well, I suppose our chaperone.
Yeah, I suppose you could say that. And he sort of like looks around you into like where everyone else is in the chamber, and he sees Friar Dunstan. He says, "Friar, I took the liberty of heading to the small chapter house for the Sewer Keepers Guild. I've spoken to Amicia, who's there at the minute. She's quite busy at the moment, as I've said, but she said she could probably spare you a few minutes." Alan Latham leads the group to a small wooden building, which is the chapter house of the Sewer Shifters Guild in Bishopsgate. On the way, he tells them that, given recent events, the Peakers have now put this area of the sewers on lockdown, and they are only allowing people who are licensed members of the Sewer Shifters or Rivermen's Guild in there. However, they are offering bounties on the pelts of any creatures that are slain within the sewers. As they arrive at the wooden building, Latham greets a couple of the sewer shifters who are stood around in their stained overalls and leather masks to protect against the unwholesome vapours of the sewers, and leads the heroes inside. Inside, you can see there's probably about another half a dozen people dotted around. There's not much in the way of furnishings in this room. There's like a few crates dotted about. There's a large wooden table which forms the centrepiece of the room. There's a couple of men standing on either side of it. There's what appear to be maps of some kind spread out on the table, a quill, various other like bits and pieces dotted about, and you can see what appears to be a young woman sat behind the desk. She has extensive scarring covering one side of her face. As you walk in, she looks up as you approach. She doesn't say anything though.
Okay, so I will approach and I will gesture to Michael and ask him to show the lady the teeth that we found from that crocodile, young Michael.
Right, you are. Not a problem. Yeah, I'll put them here somewhere. Let me just have a shifty. Oh, there we go. Ta-da!
Okay,
Look
so
at that. Little thing, massive.
You take out the teeth and hold them up. The woman doesn't so much as raise an eyebrow as she looks at them, and then looking at Latham, she says, "So these are the men you wanted me to meet, Alan?" Yes, that's right, Miss Dunham. These are the folk who helped me get out of the sewers. She looks at you all and says, "Alan tells me that you were all most helpful in getting him away from whatever creature was lurking in the sewers."
That's right, sweetheart. That's us.
She turns and like gives you like a deadpan sort of look as you say that.
I'll just pipe up trying to help him. It's like, he says that to everyone. Don't worry about it.
It's true, I do. Admittedly, I do. But I'm friendly like that.
Which of you is the leader of your band, troop?
Lieutenant, innit?
In this instance, I would defer to the friar.
We have the
Matters of the
powers
common
temporal,
people.
the powers temporal and spiritual here. So
There you go.
So I will say yes. That is me. I lead this motley crew. And
Any lieutenant? I thought he was a lieutenant. I mean, what?
Perhaps you should decide which of you is the leader, and then talk to me once you've had this discussion. I'm extremely busy.
Forgive my friend. He thinks he's funny.
Yes, a lot of people labour under the same misapprehension.
Sorry, so I understand that you're busy. We are also busy. We need to get back into the sewers, and I'm hoping that we can come to an arrangement. I understand from talking to Alan that you are under pressure, and that a number of creatures being killed in your name would aid you in this dispute with the Riverman's Guild.
Guildmaster Amicia tells the assembled group that the leader of the Riverman's Guild, a man by the name of Reedham, has been using his contacts at court to put pressure on them and has gained access to the sewers for his own guild, territory that has traditionally only belonged to the Sewer Shifters Guild. She believes that he's attempting to capitalise on their current lack of numbers to either destroy their guild or more likely subsume it into his own. She agrees to the party's plan that they will attempt to slay a number of creatures in the sewers in the name of the Sewer Shifters Guild, gaining them prestige, and in return the group pay 4 gold quid each to become members of the Sewer Shifters Guild. Amicia hands them a map to the local area of the sewer and tells them that she will send one of her men with them as a guide.
And we have seen our business through.
She sort of like taps one of the men standing near her and says, whispers something into his ear. He walks out, he goes to the back of the room, comes back with a small wooden chest, places it on the table in front of her, and then sort of backs off into a corner. She opens up the chest, the lid facing towards you, and says, the 4 of you will be needing these. And she takes out what appear to be a small number of necklaces. Each of them has a small silver disc on, emblazoned with the symbol of the Sewer Keepers Guild. It says, if anyone should question your authenticity as members of the guild, these will mark you out as members. And she sort of holds them out to you. They're on a simple piece of leather thonging, but like I said, this flat silver disc with the symbol of it's about the size of a silver piece with the symbol of the Sewer Keepers Guild on it.
Much obliged, thank you kindly. It's quite nice, that, I don't mind. Yeah, it's all right.
Thank you.
It's not as nice as your ring.
No, well, you know, I paid good money for that.
Well, thank you very much, and good luck to you. And we have a positive outcome to this arrangement.
Indeed, I would expect if you decide not to remain members of the guild that you would return these these tokens to us.
Absolutely. And just one final question before we do. The peakers are often corrupt. Do you find yourself having to bribe them, or will this token be enough?
Unfortunately, bribing peakers is a sad fact of life. It's an occupational hazard for members of the Sewer Keepers Guild. If you find an honest peaker, and she sort of like chuckles a little bit to herself as she says that, then showing them the token should be enough. If it's not, then you may need a couple of shillings or pounds to see you clear.
Or crowbar.
I couldn't possibly officially condone such behaviour, she says with a slight smile.
No, you've probably never been chucked in the river by him either.
She smiles and sort of turns towards you. Like I say, you can see this like lattice of scars down one side of her face. And she says, "There are much worse things in the sewers than being thrown into a river."
Oh, okay, yeah. Sorry, didn't mean to pry or suggest you are not worldly wise.
No offence taken. I would simply caution you before you go in there that the parts of the sewers are old and predate the construction of London as it is now, and parts of it have collapsed and lead down to even deeper depths. And sometimes, unfortunately, things come up from those depths towards the light of day. And when they do, it is my guild's responsibility to either deal with them or send them back to the darkness where they came from. And sometimes we lose good men doing that. And no one above in the streets ever knows that people are dying beneath their feet to keep them safe. But that's the job that we accept when we become members of the Sewer Keepers Guild.
Wow, I had no idea, I must admit.
We wear it as a badge. Many families have been members of the guild for a number of years. We wear it as a badge of honour that so few people get to know about the dangers that lurk beneath their feet, because we make sure they do not have to know about them. Along with Latham, who agrees to accompany the heroes back into the sewers, a sewer shifter called Peter is assigned to act as a guide for them, along with the map that they've been given by Guildmaster Amicia. They make their way back towards the sewers, and they can see that 2 small areas of decking have been built outside the main entrances. They are patrolled by peakers.
These old sewer keepers are a pretty serious bunch, really. Didn't quite realise what we were getting into there.
Yeah, I guess when your day job is literally like wrangling alligators. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to think these guys are sort of like, they spend all their time in an environment where like the slightest slip could mean you die, basically. So yeah, they're pretty serious about it.
Thought it might have just been like scrubbing down the walls a bit, clearing the odd blockage, bit of repointing of the stonework.
It's like, are you guys janitors? No, we are literally monster hunters.
Yeah, man.
Pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much, all right.
Okay, so as you guys can hopefully see, I've sort of manually revealed bits of the map. So as you scroll around, anything you can see is what you can see on the map, basically.
Okay, and do we know, or does Peter know whereabouts on the map the Temple of Gale is, roughly?
Okay, I will just move you to that bit. Just give me a second. Okay, so you should have all now been moved, so you can see like a staircase which you just pinged. That staircase then heads down. Peter will say that leads to a sub-level, which is, give or take, pretty much below where the Sanctuary of Gale is.
Okay, perfect.
So it may be that the temple is unaware of the goings on underneath it. I wonder if that may be the case.
The heroes head to the entrance of the sewer, where they're met by the peakers on guard outside. One of the peakers recognises Big Mick from their previous excursion. He goes, "Yeah," he says, "I'd know that face anyway." He says, "I remember seeing you all sloshed up as we slung you in a drink." He says, "Oh, don't tell me you're one of the sewer keepers."
Well, yeah, I am, as it goes. Yeah.
He says,
Yes.
"Nah, pull the other one."
Look here, I've got this badge of honour, mate.
He's like,
bona fide, legit.
He's like, fucking hell. I knew the guild was getting desperate for numbers, but jeez.
Not as desperate as the peakers, clearly.
He says, "Well, you sure you want to go in there?" And he sort of he gestures at the pouts. He's like, think you're up for it, do you? Sure you don't want a little bit of a drink before you go in? A bit of Gaulish courage.
Yeah, you can't keep a funny man down for long, can you, eh? Oh dear, oh dear. Yeah, I can handle it in there. I'm proper sewer keeper, me, mate.
The Pika captain says, "Quiet," says to the Pika, "Quiet, Jones. We haven't got it."
Yeah, quiet in the ranks, Jones.
She's like, "Well, if you'll all step forward and present your identification."
I'll step forward. Take out my pendant. Was it the?
Yeah,
Yeah. So I'll like shuffle it really close to Mr. Funny Man. Just sort of like, get into his face. It's like, yeah, just.
He's like, all right. I don't need to check your fucking tonsils. He takes a look at it and then lets it fall against your chest, and he's like, well, and obviously Peter and Alan step forward and sort of show similar tokens. He's like, well, they all look legit, Captain. She's like, well, if you're licensed members of the Sewer Keepers Guild, I have no call to keep you out. And she gestures at the entrance. You can still see there's still the bar missing that you guys pulled out. Says, I should warn you though, be careful. There's and she gestures at the sort of splatter where the leech was on the board. And says, a few of my men have come out with those things attached to them. Near as we can figure, they inject something into the wound so you don't notice they're on there until afterwards. Nasty things. We've had a couple of we've sent a couple of men to the apothecary after running afoul of them. So just be on the watch for them. I'd stay clear of the deep water if I were you.
At that, I'll turn back to Mr. Funny Man and sort of take out one of my knives and like pick at my fingernails, and I'll look at him like, yeah, that sounds. I've heard like some of those like go inside, so there might be some in your guts. Like, do you want me to take a look? And I'll like bring out my knife.
He's just like, no, you're all right, fella.
You sure?
Yeah, pretty sure. The group begin making their way through the sewers, following the map that they were given by Guildmaster Amicia.
But I would be interested in checking out this northern passageway to see what's up here.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. You express an interest in checking that out. Peter says, no problem. Me and Latham will stay here and keep an eye out, make sure nothing sneaks up on you, like.
Okay. And then I will just move up to here and see what I can see.
So as you start getting up to this point, Fry, you can see just to the west of you, so sort of over in this direction, see what appears to be a natural sort of set of almost like stone stairs, but it's more just like where the rocks have crumbled away and lowered down a gradient. So I'll reveal an extra bit of the map here. You can also see to the north of you is what appears to be another of these small round chambers with a rotted and rusted half ladder, which must have once led up to a similar sewer hatch to the one that you escaped from previously. So the remains of the ladder are sort of like there. You can see, however, that the area around the ladder appears to be sort of covered in this light yellowy green fuzz of mould, and as you're peering at it, you can see what appear to be bones amidst this furry carpet of mould.
Okay.
Okay, what do you want to do, guys?
Anything there, Friar?
Nothing good. Certainly not a way out. So definitely we need to keep to the south if anything goes wrong. And I suggest that we keep going towards the Temple of Gale.
Okay.
Okay, as you're saying that and you're starting to head back, Friar, from this direction, you hear a whispered voice go, "Shut up, I can hear somebody."
Okay. So now I'm concerned about something else being here. So I will head down these stairs and call out, "Who's there?"
Okay, so you start heading down the stairs. As you get down there, you can see what appears to be another one of these natural caverns, and you can see 5 people wearing dirty, ragged clothing. They look pretty much like vagrants. You can see evidence that they've obviously been sort of sleeping rough down here. Most of them look quite thin and malnourished. As you step down and say, "Who's down here?" the one nearest to you, he sort of scrambles back. Like I say, he's painfully thin, obviously been like living rough. He sort of holds up his hands. He's like, "Oh no, I didn't mean no harm. I ain't bothering anyone. Just trying to get a place out of the snow. It's freezing up there."
Indeed it is, and you've nothing to fear from me. But tell me, how do you come in and out of the sewers without the peeker seeing?
He says, "Well, we came down through the entrance in that little round chamber near here. Unfortunately, the ladder broke when we was coming down. We've had a quick look around. We did find this nice little gaff that we thought we were all going to stay in, but well, there's already some people in there, and well, they didn't seem too. Well, I say people, they didn't seem too pleased to see us. So we got while the going's good, and we've been holed up here ever since. We're just waiting till the storm blows over, and then we'll be out of here."
So tell me about these people and the gaff that you found.
He says, "Well, there were these 3 little fellows, and they were, they looked like they'd been rolling around in shit as far as I could see. They were covered in it. And, we heard them talking, and they sounded like they were wrong uns, so we thought, we're not going to mess. We're not looking for trouble with anybody. We're just looking for a place to, like, sleep out of the cold. So we left them be, and we came and found this place."
Okay, and where did you see these wrong uns?
He says, "Well, it was a bit of a ways from here. There's this like long stone passageway and a step of stairs going down, and then there's this big, this big old place. It looks like it must have once been quite summer, but it's all like ruined and falling to pieces now. But there was at least a table and chairs in there. Looked tidy enough. We're going to hole up in there, and but like I said, we saw these 3 wrong uns in there, and we thought, nah, it's not worth it."
And what can you tell me about the body in the mould just here where you came down?
He says, "Well, I know it's there." He says, "Honestly, I swear, we got nothing to do with it. We came down that way. One of us, one of my lads put his feet like through the rib cage, I think, but we haven't touched it. We got out there as soon as we could. Don't look too healthy in that place, all that mould everywhere. So we got through it as quick as we could. We didn't want to mess around with it."
Okay. And there's 5 or 6 of them in there?
Yeah.
Okay, so I will give them like a copper each.
He's like, "Oh, bless you, sir, bless you."
And I guess since it seems like the mold is not fully lethal, I will take this opportunity to examine this body.
Okay, that is absolutely fine. So you move into this area. As you sort of step into the mould, obviously being careful, it feels quite spongy underfoot, and as you step on it, there's almost like this and what appears to be like a sort of a mustardy yellow like mist like drifts up from the floor into the air.
Okay. So I'll quickly give the body a once over and see if there's any marks that might give away who or what it is.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. As you look at it, you can see that the figure's wearing what must have once been like old, like leather clothing, a little bit similar to the stuff that Peter's wearing. So perhaps he was a sewer worker, but the enzymes that the mould secreted appear to have pretty much sort of like eaten away at it. There's just like scraps left. However, as you're searching through, you do find the remnants of what appear to be a leather pouch, and inside it are 60 gold pieces.
Okay.
The pouch itself is a bit of a write-off, unfortunately, but
That is not a problem.
Continuing towards the area that they believe is situated below the Sanctuary of Gale, the party reach what appears to be a fast-moving torrent of effluence and filth that they will have to wade through in order to get to the staircase down to the sub-level that Peter spoke about. The lieutenant says that they're going to have to go in and gestures towards the sewage.
Oh no, there's no path.
He wades. Obviously, he's wearing like sort of like big leather waders, so he wades into the sort of stream of filth. You can see he's like leaning forward, like bracing himself against the flow, because you're walking upstream. Effectively, it's flowing back towards the main channel. You see both him and Alan climb into it. There's like a as they wade into this stream and slowly sort of against the current start walking up it. You can see them both leaning forwards against the current.
Is there any way, John, that I can use some skills to not go in that water and maybe get along this wall somehow, Spider-Man style?
You could certainly try and climb the wall. However, you would have to make a roll for that. Because obviously the consequences of failing that are that you would fall and end up sort of like face first in the filth, basically. But you can certainly try it if you wish. The friar wades into the
I'm just thinking about those leeches. This is leech.
We're singing the world in leeches.
I don't like them bloodsuckers.
If you do want to climb along the wall, Nick, I'll tell you it'll be a dex roll, which I believe is a primary for you, so it's 15. Obviously, you will get to add your level to it, because like climbing and scaling things is a sort of roguey thing.
Yeah.
So go for it.
I've lost my character sheet again. Can use this. Right. So I'm not so bad. I'm an 11, but no modifier. Rolling. What do I get?
Okay, it's a 4.
Oh, fuck. This happens to me every time. I don't roll above a 5.
Okay, so just up ahead of you, Jackdaw, you see Mick start sort of going like that, and he's like moving across like sideways, like trying to sort of like find some of the outstretched bricks and whatever. As he puts his foot down on a brick, though, which has obviously been worn away by time, the brick crumbles out from below his feet, and with a loud he disappears into the foulness. Obviously, it's not massively deep here, Mick, so you're not in any danger of drowning. You can just like put your feet on the bottom and stand up, but you are, for the moment, submerged in this horrendousness.
All right, so
can I do anything to pull him out?
Oh yeah, he's in no danger of drowning. He can just like stand up, but like I say, he is unfortunately covered in sewage.
Yeah,
I'm starting to take a real disliking to these sewers.
I guess as he comes up, they're like, "Looking good, Mick. Going well."
Just another day in the sewers, lads.
Yeah, pulling Mick out of the sewerage, they continue, reaching the top of the staircase, and begin to head down it. So basically, where Jackdaw stood at the minute, that leads back up to the staircase. You're in what appears to be a long stone corridor that appears to continue to the east, and then sort of there are further stairs heading down at the end of it. At the end of the corridor, sort of here, is what appears to be some sort of brass brazier of some kind. You know, like you might have a fire kindled in on the streets or something like that.
Okay.
Peter looks at you, Friar, and he says, "Well, it's your show. What do you want to do now?"
Is it normal to see braziers of this nature in the sewers? I guess not.
He's like, nah, is it fuck? Is that what with the gases down here? Who would be crazy enough to have a brazier down here? Set the whole place up.
Well, let me go and have a look.
Okay, you go and have a look at the brazier. Like I say, it's like a large brass bowl with like 3 legs coming down. It's cold. However, when you look at it, you can see there are the remnants of what appear to be sort of ash, as though someone's perhaps burnt some wood in here. So probably like a short while ago, but like I say, it's obviously not been like in the last few minutes because it's cold.
Okay.
But there are signs it was used recently.
Okay, and does it look like it's used to kind of heat food or to burn cooked food, or is it like a light of some description, would we say?
You can't see any signs of sort of like staining or like grease or anything around the side, which might attest to it being used for food. It looks as though it's perhaps been used for either warmth or a light, perhaps both. As you sort of like, you look at the ashes, it looks as though someone's burnt wood in here rather than coals, but you can't really speculate further about the use without more information.
Okay.
Heading down the staircase, the party finds themselves confronted by 2 large wooden doors.
Do they appear to have like a locking mechanism of any description?
They don't appear to have a locking mechanism. They just appear to be 2 heavy-ass wooden doors. You can see from the sort of wear and the grooves on the sort of stone floor that they obviously open outwards towards where you're standing, and they've obviously been sort of opened and shut a lot over the years. They've sort of worn grooves into the floor.
Okay. Is there any gap between the doors or under the doors that I could kind of have a look in?
There's maybe like a sort of centimetre gap at the bottom of the door.
Okay, so if I kind of get down on my knees and kind of look under, can I see anything?
Okay, you look under and you can just about make out in the sort of the very dim light that appears to be in the chamber, and what appears to be a large stone chamber, and you can just about see what you think of the legs of maybe another one of these braziers, and you can see what appear to be 2 feet stood next to it, but you can literally just see like the bottom of the feet. They look quite small, almost like the size of like child's feet, but they appear to be like covered in mud or muck of some kind.
And do we get the sense that there's light coming from the room?
There does appear to be some small amount of light in there. Yes, it's got a slight sort of orangey hue. Perhaps some things burning in the brazier. You can't really tell, but there is like a sort of dim ambient light in there.
Okay, and is there some sort of ring on the door to pull it forward, or any kind of?
You can't see a ring, but you can see what appears to be like a couple of like depressions in the stone that you can like reach into, almost like handles, and sort of pull them open. Okay,
so I'll do that like Aragorn in the Lord of the Rings and just kind of pull the door open and step in.
Okay, that is absolutely fine. You heave this door open, but I'm gonna have to remove. Oh no, I've already done that. That wasn't quite good of me. Okay, so you heave this door open, and beyond you can see a brazier burning in the centre of this chamber. There are 4 large stone pillows riding from the ground up to the ceiling of this chamber. There's another set of doors directly opposite to you, and then to your west there appears to be a further sort of tunnel or egress heading off.
Okay. And is there any sign of the feet or the creature that the feet was on?
There is not.
Okay. Did I hear the pitter-patter of feet as the door was opening?
As you're out, you didn't really hear as the door was opening, because the doors are like...
Okay.
That's a bit odd, isn't it? It's a bit freaky.
Yes, it is. So I'll step in and kind of make sure I look around the pillars before I step past them and approach the brazier.
Okay, you look behind the 2 pillars. You don't see anything untoward. You approach the brazier. You can see there is some wood still sort of smouldering away, and that's producing the small amount of light in it. I mean, I'm assuming you guys have got lanterns and whatnot because you knew you were coming down here, so that's fine. So you've certainly got enough light, but there is like a low level of light coming from this thing. Lieutenant, as you sort of move over there, behind one of the 4 pillows here, you can see what appears to be a small figure, like I say, the size of a child, but it appears to be like covered in mud or muck of some kind.
Hey,
It appears to be sort of like behind this pillar. Like,
you step out into the light.
okay, this little creature, this tiny sort of almost midget-like creature, but with like quite a large head and what appear to be tiny wings on its back, that sort of shuffles forward into the light of the brazier. And as you look at it, you can see that it's not actually covered in mud and filth now, but this, like, it's almost as though it's made of mud and muck, and you can see it appears to be like constantly sort of dripping off it.
Can we all see this, John?
Yeah. If you
What
moved
the
into the room,
bloody hell is that? What the?
obviously you can see it from the door because you're still in the corridor, but you can see it. This creature jumps forward and it starts to like snarl. You can, which is quite comical given like how small it is, and sort of like with tiny claws, like, and then it stops as it sees Jackdaw out the corner of its eye, and it turns towards him and in quite a sort of posh sounding voice suddenly goes, "Hello."
In English.
Yep.
Okay. Hello, greetings. What is your name?
My name is Puds.
Pods.
And it sort of it goes as almost as though it's like trying to slick back its hair, but actually it's just like going like through the mud that's on its head.
Hello, or good evening, buds.
You hear a voice from over in the west that sounds a little bit similar. It sort of shouts over and goes, "What is it, Puds, my love?" Goes, "Oh, we've got guests, Turbius. Got guests." "Oh, give us a second, my sweet."
Very good.
And after
I've heard it all now. I've heard it all.
After a couple of moments, you see what appear to be 2 similar-looking creatures moving in from the west. They're sort of looking around, again, sort of like oozing of mud and filth as they walk in. You can see they leave like tiny footprints of mud on the stone as they move.
Oh, very good. Hello, gentlefolk, I say to the new arrivals.
With a large dose of wishful thinking.
Yes, as they move in, they cast a slightly sort of suspicious look in the direction of Friar Dunstan. Then the creature that is here looks over towards you, Jackdaw, and he says, "Oh, what brings such distinguished folk as you to our humble abode?"
We were, in fact, looking for a way up.
Oh, you won't find no way up down here. It's down or nothing. Down or nothing.
We would be most pleased, and I gesture to my fellows, we would be most pleased if you could then show us the way down.
He's like,
We
"Well,"
can do down as well.
he's like, "Well, yeah, we could do that." And he says, then he sort of looks at you and he's like,
Okay, I will approach.
"Okay, I'll move you over." There we go. As you move closer to the creature, the one identified as Turbius, it sort of like it gestures for you to like lean down. So obviously it's only like 4 foot tall.
Yep, I will do so with a hand on a knife handle at my hip. Just
It sort of leans close to your ear and he goes, Well, what are you doing with him? And it like jerks a thumb in the direction of the friar.
Prospective recruits. Fertile ground.
He's like, what? Him? He's like, no, my love, I can smell the good rolling off him.
Which is precisely why we are going to... Obviously, you have not seen my work.
He says, wow, no, he says, I can smell you're more of our sort of person, though, if you know what I mean, my love.
Well, I like to keep an open mind.
He says, well, yeah, we like to keep an open mind, don't we, Pauper and Pads and that one? They're like, oh yeah, yes we do, Toby. Oh yeah, yes we do, of course.
Do they all have like the posh accent?
The posh accent seems to have slipped a bit. It only seems to be Puds who like has a posh accent. You'd expect that was like put on.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you catch my drift, there will be recruiting, and we will see how things go from there.
He says, wow, yes, my love, I wouldn't mind things being a bit more interesting. I mean, we did come here, we heard what was going on here, and we hoped it was going to be a bit interesting, but by the time we got here, wow, they'd all cleared out, hadn't they?
Yes, quite.
Now there's just a few dead folk over there, one in there, and...
Yeah, it appears I too am late with my... new associates over here. You said that there were some remains left over?
Oh yeah, there's some little rooms over, and he jerks his thumb in the western direction. There's a few little rooms over there, but we haven't been able to get through the doors. But we've looked through the bars. There's a few dead folk in there. See them big double doors there? That's where we came in originally, and there's one in there. You know, we caught the scent of what was going on in there, my love, and thought we'd come and have a look. You know, maybe we could help out. Looked quite interesting, but by the time we got here, it was all gone, wasn't it?
If you don't mind, could you point me towards the locale where, I suppose you detected the scent.
Oh yeah, the nose. So why did you want me to point you? Oh, where I find the scent? Oh, I was coming from behind those doors there.
All right. Quite interested in checking out these remains. You mentioned there was one there, and that's where the scent came from. That's
right, and there's more in the little rooms in that direction.
Yeah, very good. I will start with the double doors. Associates, do join me. There appears to be, something for us to investigate. I grandiosely gesture for everyone to join me at the double doors.
Lieutenant, what's up with him? Associates? Never bloody calls us associates. Something going on.
Yes, I have no idea.
Yeah, it is a dumb scene to be looking at.
At this point, I would just like to check what everyone's alignment is. I'm aware what Fry Dunstan and Jackdaws is.
Neutral.
Okay.
Yeah. Neutral.
Okay. Splendid. So the creature who sort of spoke in the posh voice to Jackdaw when he first came in, the one who called itself Puds, sort of moves alongside you, Lieutenant Uffington, and sort of goes. And then, so again, in this obviously faux posh voice, is and so tell me what brings a handsome fellow like you down here?
Revenge.
Oh, go on. Do tell me more.
It's a family affair.
Oh well, I can see how that'd be complicated. What was she, your sister? It's all right. I'm not judging you, my friend. I'm not judging you.
No, there are a number of mysteries I need to resolve.
Oh, I like a good mystery, my love.
Mm-hmm.
As this conversation's going on, another one of the creatures moves up alongside Big Mick. Sort of looks at you and it's like, "Oh, you're a nice big fellow, aren't you?"
Well, I suppose I am.
Well, I like some big.
Yeah, well.
Bet you get up to all sorts of things, don't you, my love?
Well, if I'm honest, not quite as much as I'd want to.
Oh well, maybe I'll
Keep falling in this sewer. Don't help.
Oh, well, maybe. I don't see anything wrong with that. You smells all right to me. Maybe old Purper can help you out if you're having a bit of trouble with your things and whatnots.
Well, I'll tell you the truth, I've got a few other things on my mind at the minute. I'm recovering from a beating, so yeah, maybe another time, eh?
Oh well, maybe you never know. Okay, so
Yeah.
while these like two bizarre conversations are going on, Jackdaw and Fry Dunstan, you're standing in front of these two double doors.
Yeah, my intent was to open and head inside.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. Let me just reveal part of the map.
Okay.
Fantastic.
The old pentagram don't bode well.
Okay.
No, it does not.
So as you move into this room, you can indeed see a pentagram sort of etched onto the floor. It's covered in what appear to be dried blood stains. There is a large statue in the eastern part of the room, a couple of braziers and more of these pillars. The statue appears to be of one of the ancient Goman deities. You're not sure which one. The statue's quite badly worn away, and on the western side there's what appears to be a sort of green fetid looking pool.
The body.
Indeed.
What's going on there? what does it look like?
Okay, it looks like a human body. It's lying in the centre of the pentagram. It's covered in what appear to be knife marks. There are scars covering the body. As you're sort of looking it over, Jackdaw, you can see that from the way the blood's poured and sort of looking at the wounds on the body, it appears that this person's had their throat cut.
I will study this scene and also slip next to the friar, and I will lower my voice and whisper to him. The creatures, I think they might have I don't have the words for this, but I think they might have a sort of a sixth sense, and they can tell that you are a man of the gods, and they don't like that. I presume before long they will act on whatever impulse they have regarding you. I will likely be able to lead them astray for at least a little bit. If you have a course of action you would like us to take, I think we have the element of surprise.
Okay. Well, let us see if we can explore and extract ourselves from this situation without any violence. But should the opportunity arise and they can be taken by surprise, let us see what we can do.
Very good then.
So I would like to move in here and examine the body and see if it's male or female or any kind of distinguishing marks or
Okay.
tokens that might help identify it.
It's male. It appears to have similar scars carved in it to those that Jackdaw and some of the other bodies you've seen have, although not identical. It also shows some marks of warping or mutation in the same way that the departed Rupert Uffington did, although it's nowhere near as sort of far along. The body's got like a few like scaly patches of skin, but that's about it. So just enough to go like, oh, there's something odd going on here, whereas like Rupert Uffington was like far down that path.
Okay. So I guess what I want to do is cast Detect Magic and see if anything in the room is kind of arcane in nature.
Okay, you cast your Detect Magic spell. There is a lingering residue of magic about the bloody pentagram. Although it's quite sort of old, you expect like some sort of magical working happened here, maybe like sort of like 2-3 days ago. You can't be any more exact. There are also, as you sort of like, you move around the room sort of like looking around, there are what appear to be 3 sort of stronger like tiny points of magical energy sort of in the room that are slowly dissipating, but they must have like appeared more recently.
Okay.
So within the last day.
Okay. And the pool and the statue don't.
You're not getting any magical emanations from them. The pool just appears to be particularly foul, stagnant water. And like I said, the statue just appears to be probably of one of the old Goman deities, but it's so badly sort of decayed that it's difficult to tell.
I should probably jump in that pool and roll around a bit and make sure I get well and truly coated. Good grief. It's got to be really stinking, though, for me to bother.
Okay. And these pillars just run up to the ceiling, do they? There's nothing interesting about them.
There's nothing particularly interesting. You note that there's one missing here.
Okay.
You can see the space that it must have once occupied. There's a few fragments of it remaining, but it looks as though it's long since sort of collapsed and fallen into rubble.
Okay.
You look up at the ceiling though, and there's still sort of like 5 pillars supporting it, so it looks quite secure.
Okay.
That's a bit odd, though, isn't it? Do you think that's a bit odd or not?
It seems odd. Is one of the 3 zones of magic near it?
No, the 3 zones of magic appear to be here, here, and here. But like I say, they're just like tiny little sort of pinpricks where like the magical emanations are stronger and more recent than the ambient magic around that's fading away around the pentagram.
Okay. So when I get back to Jackdaw, I'll say it looks like we're too late. Whatever happened here happened 2 or 3 days ago. My guess is that these creatures teleported into the room somehow, and that's what those magic are. Oh.
There's 3 of them, isn't there? Do they glow? Can you still see whether they glow?
They definitely have magic about them.
Okay.
And unsurprisingly, it's of an infernal type.
Okay. So I will try and talk to this one.
Okay,
And
he's just walking up behind you, and as you're sort of like saying, you're discussing the room with Jackdaw, he walks up and he's like, "Oh yes, my love, I'm afraid we were quite too late to join in any of the festivities that were occurring in there. It'd all been wrapped up by the time we arrived."
And can you sense where the festivities have migrated to?
No, I expect everyone's cleared out.
Okay.
He said, look at that as well, and he like gestures with a long oozing finger towards the dead body. He's like, "Look at that sloppy craftsmanship in there. That's just sloppy, that is."
Okay. And what were they doing here?
He's like, "Well, I don't know, some sort of ceremony involving that poor git in that symbol there. We just smelled the power reaching out and thought we'd pop through and have a little butcher's."
Okay. And are you able to return home now?
Nah, we're stuck here, unfortunately.
Okay.
I'd hoped that when we got here, there'd be enough energies going round for all, so we could have like jumped on board that and rode it back. But like I say, everyone had gone by the time we got here, my love.
Yeah.
What's sloppy about it anyway? What's sloppy about it?
It's like, wow, if you're trying to do a ceremony of some sort to call up power, you don't just like slit someone's throat and like kill them quick, do you? Everyone knows that. That's amateurish, that is.
Is it? Hmm.
Yeah.
So we're dealing with amateurs.
Well, either that or they were leaving in a hurry and just wanted to like finish off whoever that is in there. I wouldn't like to speculate.
Mm. And did the body look like he was well groomed, or does he look like he's just a peasant? So
just not like he was a peasant.
okay. Okay. So I will just say to Jackdaw, "Come, Jackdaw, let us explore the other room."
Yes, very good. Very good.
Down here.
Some more buddies that way, I hear.
Yes.
And I will say, as we walk that way, I will say again, lowering my voice, probably best to, well, whatever we do it quickly, in order to maintain the current position that we have.
The creature Turbius, who's been sort of like accompanying you, walks past you and sits down on one of the wooden chairs in this chamber, and he jerks a finger at the small rooms, and he's like, "Yeah, those are the little rooms with the dead folk in them, but like I say, I haven't been able to get the door open. You can see them through the bars, though, if you have a look."
Yeah, I'll go to the first one.
Yeah.
Is there like an external lock, or is it part of the door?
The lock is like built into the door. It would also require a key. And these sort of like your standard sort of like cell doors, like the barred sort of like grill in them. And as you peer in, you can see what appears to be a small coating of straw on the floor, what appears to be a dead body lying on it. As you
Does
peer
the
in,
body
look?
Does the body look like butchered? Like, have they been slain by violence, or?
The body doesn't look to have been tortured to the extent that the one in the pentagram is. However, you can see that the body appears to have had its throat cut.
All right, yeah. That's sort of what I was going for. Like, have they been killed?
Yes, it would appear so.
Yeah. Well, this is unusual. One might think that, well, whatever purpose was to be gained by slaying these folk, it would have been best done elsewhere, wouldn't you say? And I turn to my friend Turbius at the table.
He's like, "Wow, if you're hoping to have anything come of their death, my love, then yes, I would say you're right."
Well, what use is death if nothing comes from it?
Well, that's very true, my love, very true. As I say, if these people were just hoping to clean house, maybe they just wanted to dispose of them. Maybe they didn't have time to like chuck them.
I wonder what caused them to leave so suddenly.
Well, I don't know. Like I said, when we got here, they were already gone.
I wonder if they left. I would really appreciate a way to contact them. I came all this way, and I'll set about like looking through the like peering through the bars of each cage. Like, is there anything there, or is it just like hay and murdered people?
It's hay and murdered people all the way.
Cool.
Is there anything on the table, or is there drawers in the table or anything?
There's what look to be a couple of like burnt down remnants of candles on the table, but there's no like they were once lit, and there's just like the stubs and the melted wax left now, but there's no drawers or anything similar.
Okay.
Is there anything unusual about the candles that we could perhaps? Well, I'll take one.
Yeah, that's fine. You've got a candle. There's nothing odd about them. They just look to be your standard sort of white wax candles.
Okay.
Okay.
You hear Peter shout back through from the main chambers. Yeah. What's the plan now, then, Father?
We're just doing a little bit more exploring.
No worries. You take your time. You take your time. Me and Latham will keep an eye out on the entrance.
Cool.
Can I have a route around in that pool there, John? Just round the edge of that pool with my arm, whatever I can reach.
You most certainly can. Whilst you are doing that, if I can select it, Pauper will sort of move up alongside you and is sort of watching you as you're rooting around in the pool. It doesn't appear quite as foul as the rest of the sewage. It's more just like sort of stagnant water, but it's quite discoloured, and it's obviously like quite a lot of dirt and muck in it, so like you can't see to the bottom of the pool.
Is it quite deep then? I can't reach it or nothing.
It appears quite deep. You can't reach the bottom of it. Obviously you can't really tell how deep it is at the minute.
I think I'm going to just get in there. If it's not as dirty as I am, I might use it for a bit of a wash.
Yeah, that's fine. You jump into the pool, you start like washing yourself off. The water's got a bit of a sort of stagnant sort of smell to it, but like compared to the sewage you've been wading through, that's
what I was thinking.
You wash yourself off in it, and as you're sort of like you're under the water and you're like going like that, you sort of like risk a peep opening your eyes under the water, and you can see that at the bottom of this pool, which I say is fairly deep, but it's not like it's probably about 10 feet deep.
Mm-hmm.
So at the bottom of it, in the far wall to like the west, is what appears to be a small opening, like an underwater tunnel that leads off to the west.
Okay. Right. I'll finish my ablutions and rejoin the party. Let them know I found a passage. An underwater passage.
Okay, as you finish like washing yourself and you emerge like reasonably clean from the pool, Pauper, who's stood next to the pool as it watches you emerge, and then goes, "Oh, don't you worry about that, my love. I'll fix you up in a treat," and start sort of like going like that all over you, leaving like these like muddy handprints all over you.
Thanks.
So,
back to square one.
Yes, there you are, my love. Looking all fresh and crisp.
Thanks.
Okay. Whilst all this is going on, what's the lieutenant doing?
Basically just wandering around and trying to looking at these creatures. Yeah, I'm in a confused state down here.
Okay, yeah, as you're looking at these creatures, they almost look like small sort of imp-like creatures, but they appear to be entirely made out of mud.
Yeah. Oh, is that one still seated at the table?
Yep, Turbius is still sat at the table.
Well, what exactly are you, Turbius?
He says, well, I am Turbius, a pleasure to make your acquaintance. Over there is my sibling Pads, and my other sibling with your companion, Purpur. Pleasure to make your acquaintance, Squire.
Yes, indeed. My name is Richard.
Oh, it's nice to meet you, Richard.
Well, where did you come from?
Says, well, we were just languishing around in the pit, doing a bit of fetching and carrying, and all the sort of menial labour and things, and not terribly boring, but it's got to be done by someone, hasn't it, my love? And like I say, well, we smelt a chance of something a bit more exciting going on, so I thought we'd pop through and have a look, and here we are, my love. But like I say, unfortunately, much to my regret, as we arrived, wow, everything seems to be over by the shouting.
So what are you going to do now? What are your plans?
Well, we was just having a little bit of a think about that when you all happened to wander by. Now, I'm all for staying here for a little bit and getting our plans together. I know Puds wants to have a bit more of a look around and see what's going on. Maybe taking a few sights. We don't get out that much. It's nice to do a bit of travelling. See some new surroundings, my love.
Oh, yes. I'll see you around. Head off back into the main room.
Yep, no problem.
Or the antechamber.
You can see Latham and Peter are sort of keeping half an eye on the door and half an eye on the other creature that's still sort of like lurking around the brazier in the chamber that they're in.
And at this stage, has Big Mick told us that he's found the tunnel?
You're muted, Mick.
I'm on my way back to tell you, or I've told you. I've headed that way. Yeah,
Okay.
they've got a secret passage.
So I will head up and call on Peter and Alan to join us, that we have found a passage.
Okay, yeah, they will both head up to join you. As soon as I can manage to select them without selecting like half a dozen other things. There we go. As you're pointing this out, Peter says, "Well, yeah, we know there's a number of old Goman pools and the remnants of fountains and stuff like that. Most of them lead back to the underwater tunnels, and some of them lead further down into the. Well, you heard what the guildmaster says. There's plenty of caverns and all manner of horribleness deeper down, and the deeper down you go, the more horrible it gets."
Indeed. Well, let us go and see where this one leads, and I will get into the pool and go into the tunnel.
Okay, no problems. You start heading into the tunnel. Make me a strength roll, Friedenston. If it's not a primary, it's difficulty 18.
Okay.
Okay, so you duck down. Obviously, you're underwater. You get to about here when the passageway suddenly slopes downwards very abruptly. almost at like a 45-degree angle, like the water's like rushing down it. As you sort of like you get to that point, you obviously turn around to try and like warn the others, but you're underwater, you can't really, and the force of the water like whoops you down this tunnel, and you disappear off under the tunnel. So the rest of you guys are sort of waiting there. Fry Dunstan ducks down under the water of this pool, and a few moments later has not reappeared.
Right. Well, I shall go next.
Okay, move yourself into the pool if that's where you're going, Lieutenant. Okay, you duck down under the water, and as Mick described, you see this sort of like hole in the western wall that appears to lead into this underwater tunnel. Obviously, you're having to hold your breath as you duck under.
Alright, see if I can find Fryer. I'll follow in his footsteps.
Okay, as you start heading into the underwater tunnel, you can feel the sort of flow of the water. It appears as though this there must be like a sort of larger tunnel underneath this area that probably sort of heads in this direction, that the pool sort of drops down into. And as you drop into this passageway, you can feel the flow of water trying to pull you along. Can you please make me a strength check, Lieutenant?
Yep.
It's difficulty 15 if it's a primary.
Whoa!
Okay, so you are also pulled along this tunnel and disappear into the watery darkness. A few moments later, Mick, but both the Lieutenant and the Friar have disappeared into this pool. They've not reappeared. Obviously, Jackdaw's still exploring. You're stood next to the pool, Mick. You wait for a minute or two. No sign of the Friar. You wait for a few minutes longer. No sign of the Lieutenant.
I'm going to go and find Jackdaw.
Yeah, he's not difficult to find. He's sort of stood in the main chamber with the 4 pillars.
Jackdaw, we might have a bit of a problem.
Yes.
The Friar and the Lieutenant have gone to explore this underwater passage that I found. And they've just gone. They've not come back yet.
Well, presumably they went through the passage to the other side.
Yeah, but I thought they were going to check it out and come back and tell us what was going on.
Did they explicitly say that?
No, you're thinking to just sort of maybe the tunnel's a bit longer than... Yeah.
How are you with swimming?
Well, I seem to do quite a lot of it.
Just in the sewer, though?
Yeah, mostly I try and find the grubbiest, dirtiest, grottiest water that there is, and then I float about in it a bit.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a floater myself.
Yeah, well, you know what it's like then. It's one of those things.
Well, shall we proceed? Do we want to go see where this passage leads, or shall we do something else?
Probably we should maybe wait until see if they turn up.
You think
so? I mean, they've only just gone in there, haven't they?
Okay.
But I thought I'd better just tell you, because I mean, I was thinking to go down there, but then I thought, well, if I go down there and vanish, you'll be stuck out here. Everybody would have vanished, and you won't know what's going on.
How about we, and I like motion for us to move to the pentagram room. There's a brazier there.
Right.
How about we actually, yeah, and I go get like a chair from the jail room.
Yep.
I'll get the chair and like smash it to bits.
Absolutely fine.
And I'll just, like get a small fire going in the brazier.
Yep, no problem at all.
So Mick, how about we let's sit down for a bit here, and maybe if you have something to put on the fire, then we can most certainly do that. I have the mushrooms, and I'll like unwrap the Goblin Town mushrooms that I have. I think for sure we can just wait for a bit. If they come back having explored whatever is on the other side, we'll know more. If they went there and are not coming back, I guess we'll see what happens. So yeah, I'll like fry some mushrooms.
Yeah, that's fine. You fry some mushrooms. You wait. With all of that, you eat some mushrooms. That's fine. You wait for about 15 minutes. No sign of the friar or the lieutenant.
Well, how do you feel about taking one more dip?
Yeah,
Okay.
it don't really makes no odds to me. I've not really got anything better to do. There might be some hidden Roman remains. Goman, sorry, Glyn.
Yeah. Well, I don't really want to get into the water, but it's not like it's new, so...
Bit too soon for you, I imagine.
Yeah, well, I already died once in the river. This is old hat for me. So I think with that in mind, you should go first.
Okie doke. I don't mind.
So
Whatever
that
you reckon.
I can grab you and drag you back if the worst happens.
All right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you duck under the water. You move into this underwater passageway, and as with the friar and the lieutenant before, you are swept away by this rapid, fast-moving current as you're sort of like under the water as well. Jack does, sort of watching him. You see sort of Big Mick sort of pass through the entrance, and then you just see him like, whoosh, and he's like whooped off by the fast-moving torrent.
And having witnessed this is the only instance of this information that we have outside the being whisked away. I was like, well, like speaking to myself in the empty pentagram room, except for the poop imps, I guess. This is, well, that explains how that goes. Oh well, and I'll eat the rest of the mushrooms. Like I don't want to get those into the poop water, so. I'll just, like,
As you're doing that, you see Alan heads to the edge of the pool, and he dives into it and disappears under the water.
yeah, without saying anything, he just goes.
Yeah, he just goes up and like jumps in.
Yeah. So, Peter, you want any of this before you go?
He's like, "Nah, I'm good."
That's fine. Bit of an acquired taste, I guess, and I'll like finish my meal and. Yeah, after you, Pete.
He's like, "Fuck that! I ain't going in there." I was sent to guide you to the sewers, not like dive into like a fucking watery grave.
Yeah. And I'll lean into him, getting close by, whisper to him. The thing is, Peter, these things here, they come from the netherworld. And they don't like people. What they do like is murdering people. And don't take this the wrong way, but I kind of like you. And I would find it distasteful to come back from yonder pond and find your guts arranged into a tasteful display here in this room.
It's like, yeah, I take your point, and he jumps into the pool.
Yeah. As he jumps, like, rolling my eyes, just like, people. Okay. I'll wrap everything down, all my stuff. Yeah. Take the biggest gulp of air that I can, and make my way straight towards the current.
Okay, you dive into the pool and are swept along with the current as well. Okay, we now cut back to 15 minutes previously. Friar Dunstan, you are swept along what you think must be some sort of underwater tunnel by this incredibly strong current. You think it must, as Peter was saying earlier, perhaps it's one of the sort of submerged remnants of one of these Goman streets or an aqueduct or something similar, because as you're sort of like putting your hands out trying to steady yourself as you're swept along, you don't feel like sort of jagged like cavern walls. It feels sort of like smooth worked stone, at least as far as you can tell as you're swept along. Then just as you get to the point when you're starting to struggle with your breath, your lungs are starting to ache in your chest, you see like a light up ahead of you, and as you're swept forward, you see that this like passageway, this aqueduct, appears to be sort of heading downwards, and it appears to have sort of collapsed and broken open. And as you're swept out to the end of it, you can see almost like this waterfall sort of plunging down into what appears to be a large pool in what looks to be a large natural cavern. You briefly have a chance to go like as you like emerge out onto this waterfall, and then you sort of fall down it into this deep pool at the bottom of it. Luckily the pool is incredibly deep, so you don't take like any damage as you fall down. You land in this pool. Obviously whatever lantern you're carrying will have gone out. You briefly gain a glimpse of what appears to be like natural rocks around you as you plunge through the open air, your arms and legs flailing around, and you splash down into this pool.
Okay.
It's the Goonies.
Pirate ship around the corner.
Pirate ship.
Okay, so I don't have anything particularly heavy. So I guess what I want to try and do is once I hit the water and I go down, kind of come back up to the surface, and then is it pitch black, is it?
Yep.
Okay. So can I hear anything apart from the waterfall?
You can just hear the sound of rushing water.
Okay. So I guess what I would like to do then is swim towards the waterfall.
Yeah, that's not difficult to do. You can hear the sound of this rushing water hitting the pool, and as you're sort of swimming towards it, you hear what appears to be a sort of a cry, and then you hear a as something else drops into the water not too far away from you.
Okay. So assuming that is someone who's come after me, I will call out, give them a second to break the surface again, and then call out who's there. Okay,
so Lieutenant Uffington, as you sort of like, as I described for Friar Dunstan, you find yourself falling through the open air and you splash down into this deep pool. You sort of like, you kick your way to the surface, spluttering and gasping for air. Then you hear Friar Dunstan's voice from the darkness that's surrounding you shouting, "Who's there?"
Friar, it's me.
Lieutenant. It's a bit of a pickle we found ourselves in. I suggest we just pick a side and swim until we hit the bank.
Sounds like a plan.
So I'd like to swim kind of under the waterfall and back the way we kind of came, hoping that would be the shortest way to the bank.
Okay, yeah. You both swim sort of, obviously you swim towards each other first by the sounds of your voices, then you strike out in a direction, like sort of, you think you're heading west maybe, it's difficult to tell, and eventually you do sort of feel like hard rocks against your hands. They feel like sort of more like natural rough rock surfaces rather than the worked stone you've been moving through, and you're able to like pull yourselves out of the water. Now remind me guys, who was it who went next into the pool? Was it Mick or was it Latham?
Make.
Yeah, it's me.
Okay, so just as you guys are sort of like pulling yourself out of the water, again you hear like this, no! And then you hear like this really loud, like,
that sounded like a large fella.
Okay, so Mick, as I've described to the others, you find yourself falling through open air, and then you splash down into this large pool, and you sort of coughing and spluttering, like sort of fight your way to the surface. And just as you're sort of emerging outwards, you hear sort of like a short distance away, you hear like the voice, obviously the unmistakable voice of the Lieutenant Uffington saying, "That sounded like a large fellow."
And I'll just swim head over there. Help! Get me out of here!
Over here, Michael.
Okay, so you guys hear sort of Big Mick like doggy paddling towards like your voices, and then you hear you sort of like you swim over to him and they manage to like pull you up. Obviously, it's pitch black, as I've said. They pull you up onto this rough sort of like natural cavern surface, and just as they're pulling you out, again there's like a cry and a followed shortly by another. And you hear like a bit of a coughing and spluttering. You hear Latham's voice like, "Oh, fuck, no!"
Over here!
Then you hear a second voice near the waterfall being like, "Latham, is that you?" He's like, "Yeah, I think they're over there, Peter. Like, follow the sound of my voice." And you hear like the two of them like splashing over to you. And after a while, you're able to like help them out of the water. Although it takes you a little bit longer than normal because you're also like feeling around in the dark.
While that's going on, I'd like to be kind of trying to dry off my flint and trying to light another torch.
That is absolutely fine. You light another torch, and in the illumination cast, you can see you're in what appears to be a large natural cavern. And looking up, you can see that this you suspect now it is like part of an old decayed aqueduct is sort of like bursting through the ceiling, and the water's just running out through the open air, forming this waterfall, splashing down into this large deep pool. And you can see Mick and the lieutenant helping Peter and Latham out of this pool.
Okay. And what else can we see around the bank that we're on? Is it deep, or is it quite close to the cavern walls? Or
it's a very large cavern. You're quite some distance away from the cavern walls. You can see what appear to be like natural mosses and small like toadstools growing here. You think from what Peter said earlier, you must have like made it down to like one of these deeper levels that's underneath the sewers.
Okay.
You sort of look around, and then about sort of like 10-15 minutes later, I'm assuming, Jackdaw, you don't sort of like howl or scream as you cascade down the waterfall.
I'm trying to hold on to the air because I don't know how long this is going to take. So.
Okay, you don't hear any scream at all, guys. You just hear like a
splash.
And obviously, Jackdaw, you plummet into the same pool.
Yep. Well, I guess like eventually I'll surface and be like,
You hear Peter's voice being like, "Jackdaw, is that you?" And you can just sort of see them like in this dim illumination cast by the flickering torch of the friar. It's like, "There's a bank over here. Swim over. We'll pull you out."
all right, good job, and I'll head that way.
Yeah, and they pull you out of the pool. As the friar lifts up his torch, you look around, you can see this huge cavern that you're in. moss covers the walls, and there are small sort of toadstools and funguses growing on the floor. And just up at the top, you can see this ruined aqueduct with this waterfall cascading out into this large pool. As you're sort of waving this torch around, you can see that some of the moss that's on the walls appears to catch hold of the light for a few moments. And as you move the torch away from them, Fry, you see that the moss appears to very, very faintly, but appears to like glow like a greenish hue for like a few seconds after you move the light away from them.
Okay.
And you can see sort of multiple tunnels or passageways, whatever you want to call them, sort of leading off from this cavern.
Okay, and how big is the cavern roughly?
It's huge. It's easily sort of like 60, 70 feet wide.
Okay. And is like all in the middle of it the pool?
No, the pool appears to be over towards one edge of the cavern.
Okay.
And you guys had sort of like dropped in the middle of the pool.
Okay. And we're on the edge now that's not...
Yeah, you're on the edge that's like in the sort of centre of the cavern.
Okay. And it's basically just untold amount of tunnels to...
Indeed, it's like I say, it appears not like the sort of, albeit slightly decayed, but structured sewers you were previously in, where everything, even if it didn't have a purpose that was obvious to the eyes of the modern Londoner, it once had a purpose. There were once streets, aqueducts, etc. This looks more labyrinthine and natural, with sort of like twisting corridors and tunnels heading off in different directions.
Okay, well, it seems like we're in a bit of a pickle, gentlemen. Should we?
Yeah, ain't going to be no joke getting out of here, is it?
No, it is not. But I suggest the sooner we start, the sooner we'll finish. Should we just pick one at random?
Is there no other signs of life at all? Like any bones or excrement? Any stuff like that?
Not as far as you can see. However, as you're sort of stood on the edge of the pool and you're looking around, Mick, you peer into the pool and you see what appears to be a dark shape at the bottom of the pool that appears to be moving.
Okay. Is everybody out of the water at this point?
Yep, you're all out of the water.
How big, John?
Big. Like, sort of 10 foot by 10 foot.
Blimey. I'll nudge whoever's nearest, be like, there's something big in the water, lads.
And as he says that, the surface of the water explodes, and what looks like a slimy green tentacle bursts out of the water, sort of moving towards you all at speed.
Jeez.
And that is where we're going to end the session for this evening, guys.